Are you a parent who looks back with regret? Have you ever chosen peace over truth in your own home? Then listen to my story, because what I failed to confront cost me everything. I was the man closest to God, a servant of sacred things. I was born into the tribe of Levi, descendant of Aaron, priest by calling, leader by lineage. I served at the tabernacle in Shiloh, the place where God's presence dwelled before the temple was ever built. I wore the ephod, lit the lamps, offered the prayers, held the ark. But I didn't hold my home. I also heard what I didn't confront, and I saw what I didn't stop. And that silence echoed louder than any sermon I ever gave. Hophni and Phinehas, my sons, born into priesthood, trained in the shadow of the ark, but never shaped by it. They were surrounded by holiness, yet untouched by it, blinded by proximity, not transformed by it. They were reckless. They took what belonged to God from the offerings. They desecrated the temple courts with women. They dishonored the name I wore. And I spoke to them, but softly. I warned them, but gently. I did not remove them. I did not rebuke them with the weight they required. Parental correction that lacks courage becomes complicity. I thought love meant leniency, but love that won't correct isn't love at all. Correction is not cruelty. Silence is. What we don't confront in our children becomes what controls the next generation. There was a woman once. Her lips moved, but no sound came. And I, the priest, accused her of being drunk. But she wasn't intoxicated. She was broken, pouring out her soul before the Lord, anguish spilling out where words could not. Her name was Hannah. A woman scorned by barrenness, mocked by her rival, misunderstood by her priest, but not forgotten by her God. She told me she was praying, not just for a child, but for a miracle she would give back, a son she would dedicate, a vow she would keep. I blessed her, half unsure if I should, but God heard her, even when I didn't. And in time Samuel was born, the boy who would become my student and eventually my successor. She brought him back, just as she had promised, small, weaned, but kept her vow.
And said, "For this child I prayed, and the Lord has granted me what I asked of him."
Never underestimate the prayers of a mother. The next prophet may be in the arms of the quietest woman in the room. I misread her pain, misjudged her faith, and nearly missed what God was birthing right in front of me. Spiritual authority must never confuse discernment with assumption. I spoke too quickly. Parents, leaders, be slow to judge, be quick to listen. You never know when you're speaking to the carrier of a great blessing. Samuel. He came to the temple young, still clumsy in his robes, a child of promise, a living vow, given over by his mother to serve the Lord. He was quiet, observant, the kind of child who listened more than he spoke. There was wonder in his eyes and reverence in his small frame. I became his mentor, his covering, his priest. But then, God called him, not me, him. He heard the voice and ran to me 3 times. And 3 times I said, "I did not call you." But by the 3rd time I knew. If he calls again, say, "Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening." And God spoke to him, clearly, personally, about judgment, about me. If we do not hear the voice of God in our own homes, he will speak through others, even the children. I was the priest, but Samuel became the prophet. Legacy doesn't live in titles, it lives in obedience. Samuel came to me shaking, still just a boy, eyes wide with the weight of God's words. And he told me everything, how the Lord would bring down my house, how my sons would die in one day, how judgment would fall. And I said, let him do what seems good to him. Was that surrender? Resignation? Or was it just too late? Passive parenting invites divine intervention, but not always the kind we want. There comes a time when ignoring dysfunction becomes rebellion, and rebellion is never private. It spills into the next generation. What we tolerate in our children today may be what destroys them tomorrow. The warnings were clear. The word of the Lord had come. But still the people, they thought they could carry the ark into battle like a good luck charm, as if the presence of God could be used without reverence, as if the sin we refused to confront would somehow stay quiet in war. My sons, Hophni and Phinehas, marched out with it, carrying holiness on unrepentant shoulders. I knew better, but I said nothing. And so the ark was taken, the ark of the covenant, the sacred chest that held the law, the mercy seat of his glory, the symbol of our identity, gone. My sons were killed, and when I heard the news, I couldn't stand. The chair gave way, or maybe I did. I fell backwards, old, heavy, broken. I died that day, not only from grief, but from the judgment I had postponed for years. Israel mourned the ark, but I mourned something deeper. What could have been if I had fathered with the same boldness I preached? Public ministry cannot compensate for private neglect. I led Israel, but I lost my home. I served in the temple, but failed in the tent. And now, my legacy is not the lives I changed, but the sons I didn't. To the parent who thinks kindness means softness, love tells the truth, even when it costs you comfort, especially when it could save your child. To the leader more focused on the pulpit than the kitchen table, don't sacrifice your children on the altar of ministry. The ark cannot replace your attention. The rituals cannot replace your presence. To the ones who see the warning signs in your children, in your home, in yourself, don't wait for it to collapse. Act now, speak now, pray now. It's not too late to stand where I sat down. To the parent who thinks they've already failed, there's still time. Repentance is louder than regret, and if you have a breath, you still have a voice. Use it. I carried the presence of God, but failed to carry the weight of discipline. I mistook peace for passivity, mercy for inaction, comfort for compromise. But silence is not safe. Silence lets sin grow unchecked. What we tolerate takes the pulpit. What we excuse ends up preaching. Samuel rose where I fell. The voice of God found him, and through him the word of the Lord returned to Israel. My name is remembered, but not for what I built, for what I missed. And so I say to every parent, every leader, every soul entrusted with influence, don't confuse gentleness with inaction. Don't confuse position with purpose. Don't confuse regret with repentance. God still speaks, He still sees, and your story doesn't have to end like mine. I was Eli, the priest who sat too long, the father who waited too late. But you can still stand. Stand in prayer, stand in truth, stand in uncomfortable love, because silence cost me everything, but your voice could still save everything.